This is Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. Welcome. We're on TV Santa Barbara and we go around the world on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We invite you to visit www.goodlifetelevision.org and we'd love to have you plug in with us. We're glad you joined us today. I'm really excited about my special guest today, Gina Carbajal. Welcome.
Thank you, Dean.
This program is near and dear to my heart because it has to do with special needs, and as we've talked about, we have a special needs daughter, and so that's something that we're interested in and passionate about, and I know you are as well. So I'm glad to be able to talk about that. Gina is the Director of Development for the Special Olympics here in Santa Barbara County and in Ventura County.
Yes.
And which is a wonderful organization. We'll get to that in a minute. But just to start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born and brought up? A little bit about your family. I'd love to hear a little bit.
Sure. Well, I was born in Los Angeles, California. I grew up within the general Los Angeles area. When I was in junior high, we moved to the San Gabriel Valley. So I graduated from San Gabriel High School, and lo and behold, that year when I graduated, I met my to-be husband. Actually, I was 17, he was 18 when we met, right out of high school. And he was up here at UC Santa Barbara. We met, we dated, long distance dating, and then I made my way up this way too, and it ended up at UC Santa Barbara. Both of us are alums.
Okay.
And, you know, we had our daughter while we were here at school, and because I think we had our daughter, you know, within those young years being at college there, we decided just to make this home. And I mean, who wouldn't love being in Santa Barbara, right?
Right.
So we've been living in Santa Barbara since like 1986. 1986 is when I moved up here, and so this is home for us. And you know, worked for a couple nonprofits since I've been up here.
Yeah, where else have you been?
So I worked for a program called Head Start, which is the largest nonprofit preschool program for families that are low-income families. And when I started off, when I was at UCSB, I started off as a preschool teacher, and I was in the first inclusion classroom with Head Start. I think it was one of the first in the county that was not part of, you know, the Santa Barbara County Office of Education. I've worked many years within this field of working with individuals with different types of disabilities. And lo and behold, 5 years ago, I found myself at Special Olympics. And, you know, I'd have to say it's really great working with our athletes. When I run into them, you know, at various, you know, whether it's the supermarket store, you know, picking up mail, whatever it may be, I run into our athletes all over the community, and yeah.
And I was going to ask you, before we get to I want to get a little to the history of Special Olympics and kind of the big picture, but what drew you to Special Olympics and what keeps you there?
I think what drew me was, you know, I was in between jobs at the time, and someone that I know was on our leadership council, and he said, you know, there's an opening at Special Olympics. I think this would be a great fit for you. And I've mentioned this to other people in the past, that I looked into it. I knew about Special Olympics, you know, just as a lot of other folks do, but I looked more into it, and I thought, I think this would be a great fit. And what I realized at the time was that Special Olympics was actually started by Eunice Kennedy Shriver.
Right.
And the program that I had worked over 20 years for was Head Start, and that was started by her husband, Lieutenant Shriver. Yeah. And I just thought, wow, these two great programs, you know, by a husband and wife team, totally separate types of programs. And I thought, well, you know, let me apply, let's see. And lo and behold, I got the position, and like I said, I've enjoyed it, you know, working like with our athletes, having them just come into our office. Yeah. I was down at UCP work, their art studio on Victoria. Some of our athletes actually do some of their artwork there.
Oh, really?
I ran into one of my athletes that used to come in on a daily basis. Craig Winery would come in, sit down, have his lunch next to my desk. Yeah. And, it's just kind of neat just to see him. And, we moved our office out to Goleta, so that makes it a little difficult now for him to get out there. But he calls at least once a week.
Really?
Yeah, just to chat, just to say, I'm going to the tournament, or what are you guys doing, or just wanted to let you guys know about the traffic on the freeway. So, a variety of things. So that's what I love. Yeah.
I've read that Special Olympics is in 170 countries.
It is.
And
Yes.
4.4 million athletes participating.
Yes.
So, what year was it founded? Was it the 60s?
So Special Olympics Southern California was actually in 1968.
Okay, and that was Rayford Johnson.
That was Rayford Johnson.
Okay.
And the year prior to that was when Eunice Kennedy Shriver started her first games. Prior to that, it was in her backyard.
Really?
But the year prior to our founding by Rayford Johnson, it was actually at, I'm trying to remember now, it was in Chicago. Big field out there. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Soldier Field?
Soldier Field. There you go. Soldier Field was their first actual games. And what a great concept that she had, to include individuals with intellectual disabilities in sports at a time when so many individuals were being institutionalized.
Right. Especially back then.
And it was just great that she had this concept, and it wasn't just about sports. It was also about ensuring that individuals, to show to the world not their disability but their abilities, which was, I think back in the 1960s, she had it right.
She had it right.
She had it right, yes.
Yeah. Did the Kennedys have a special needs child in their family, or how did she get?
One of Eunice's sister and President Kennedy's sister, Rosemary, had an intellectual disability. And my understanding was she was there at home. She participated a lot in their sports activities. The family was big in sports. They're very competitive. So my understanding was she did compete a lot in different types of activities, but she felt like there really wasn't very much for her sister, and really wanted to make that inroad, not just with their own general community, but in general, throughout their state, throughout the country, and hopefully impact the world, which we're seeing that today.
And the World Games, weren't they 2 or 3 years ago in Los Angeles?
Yes, so Special Olympics Southern California, we hosted the 2015 World Games, and that was, I was down there for a week working for a week, and it was just, it's an experience. I would say, if anyone could ever volunteer, put that on your bucket list. If you could volunteer at a World Games or a big venue like that, it was just, it's hard to explain, but all the athletes from all over the world were just so excited. It didn't matter that they didn't win a race, or they didn't get a gold medal, silver or bronze. They were just so excited to be there and to participate.
And I've thought about what you just said. I want to get to that in a second, about how they run their race. It's an interesting perspective shift. Tell us about one or two athletes that come to mind that you've worked with. That you just mentioned one, Craig. But tell us about, maybe if you have one that in particular that you have a relationship with.
Our athlete of the year, Sam. It's interesting. When I first started Special Olympics, one of my first big competitions that I went to was in the fall, our fall games down in Irvine. And so I had only been on board a few months. I started in July, there I go in November. And I want to try to get out to as many of the different competitions that our Santa Barbara athletes are participating in. I go to floor hockey, and if you see Sam, he's a big guy. He's over 6 foot. I want to say he's 6'2", 6'4", and large shoulders, big guy. He didn't like a call that a ref had, so he got upset. He stormed off the rink, took off all his equipment and was upset. What was interesting, I'm seeing this, I'm going, he's right by me, this big, humongous guy. I'm going, okay, how do you deal with this? Well, is interesting if you see Sam today compared to 5 years ago. That's something that his coaches have really worked with him on is, when you get upset, your behaviors, whatever it may be. Sam today is not the same Sam 5 years ago.
Wow.
He comes in, he helps us volunteer in the office. When I do my mailers or different activities, we're moving our office, there he was helping out, lending a hand. And so we saw a big improvement of him, not just, on the playing field, but, just wanting to help out and volunteer, dealing with his emotions. And that, I'd have to say, is really with our coaches and maybe his own caregiver working with that with him. And so we saw a great improvement in him.
Yeah.
And we thought, wow, it wasn't just about the sports part, it was some of the other aspects that we thought, which made him our pick for our athlete of the year. Yes.
And how many athletes in this region participate annually, let's say?
Within the region, within Santa Barbara, we have about 1,200. Within the Santa Barbara County, about 1,200 athletes. And then in Ventura County, we have about 800 athletes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 2,000 between Santa Barbara.
Yes.
That just seems like a lot based on the population. That's more than I would have expected.
Yeah.
But so they find out about this.
They do. We really try to work with our schools and our school programs, and we're hoping that collaboration will help us get athletes that are at the school age, then moving into our community-based programs. So, once they're out of school, then they could participate. Ages are from 5 years of age up to one of our oldest athletes is, I believe, 73 or 74 years old.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's really no age limit.
There really is no age limit. It's just, if they want to participate and they're able to participate in the sports activities.
That is great.
Yeah.
So back to what we were talking about a second ago. So one of the things, we've had a special needs daughter for 17 years now, and we've learned a lot from her. But I was thinking about my little that I've seen about in Special Olympics, and I haven't seen a lot. But, one of the things that our daughter has taught us, she's taught us a perspective change in different areas. And one of the kind of the perspective changes that I can kind of see with Special Olympics and that you mentioned is, I'm not trying to beat you. I'm trying to win my race. I'm trying to do the best I can, which is a refreshing thing.
Yeah.
It just seems like whether they finish first or 10th, if they did their best and they ran their race well, they're excited. And it's not about, well, you beat me or I beat you. Do you find that to be true?
Yes.
I mean, that seems like something we could all learn from.
Yes, the majority of our athletes, yes, that's kind of what their overall their
Posture,
attitude.
yeah.
Their attitude is, they want to compete, they want to have a good time, they want to be with their friends. We do have some athletes that are a little competitive. I think in general, they're okay. Like, an athlete just told me, Chris Powers, I ran into at the store yesterday, and he told me, he goes, we didn't win. He goes, we didn't win. He goes, but we had a great tournament this past Saturday down in Ventura. He goes, we came in 4th place, but that's okay because we had fun, and it was a nice day down in Ventura. So. Which I think, is great. Most folks, if you didn't win, or most people just say, oh yeah, I competed, and
Right.
Most folks won't necessarily say, oh, we came in 4th. He
Right.
thought it was fine, which,
Right.
Which it is, because it was all about just being with each other and having fun.
Yeah. And another characteristic of in special needs that I've seen more common than those of us that don't have special needs is there's almost like a childlike, and I don't mean childish, but I mean childlike kind of purity.
Yes.
There's not an agenda oftentimes with these kids or folks that was, or some kind of a motive, or I don't know how to exactly describe it, but there's something wonderful about. There's a simple kind of childlike purity to a lot of these special needs people that I've been around, including my daughter. You know, she's, you know, pretty much what you see is what you get. Whereas oftentimes in the world, you know, you're dealing with underlying motives or agendas or whatever. So I don't know if that's something you
Oh
have seen.
yeah, I've seen that. I was only on board with Special Olympics a couple months when I went out and did the Lemon Festival. I was tabling at the Lemon Festival, and I was there by myself. You know, holding down the fort, tabling, talking about Special Olympics. I'm going, wow, you know, I've only been on board a couple months, but I could handle this. And lo and behold, just after I set up my table, there's this young man, he has Down syndrome, comes running over to my table, runs around on the backside of it and gives me a big bear hug and says, oh, you're the new person working at Special Olympics. I'm an athlete, and just was so excited to talk to me. And I realized when they had told me at Special Olympics, you will have your aha moment. And for me, that was my first aha moment. Was he didn't know who I was. He just knew I was a new person. And he was excited to see me, to know my name. And, you know, most folks, they just put their hand out, they shake your hand. No, he gave me the biggest, warmest hug, which I thought, and we get that a lot. We get these hugs and, you know, athletes that are excited to see us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that warmth, I think,
The warmth, yes.
is
It's a genuine.
It is genuine. You know, my daughter, so Ella Claire, she works on a physical program. We have a stander device that she does every day. She stands in it, it straps her in, and then she does some other therapy programs, and we try to incent her. And so right now she's working towards, if she does it for enough weeks, she and I are going to lunch at Los Arroyos, okay, that's her big reward. The reason why she wants to go to Los Arroyos is because her favorite waiter, Felipe, is there. She met Felipe one time we went to dinner. She hugged him. Of course, he speaks Spanish and she prefers Spanish. So she's talked about him ever since we went to the restaurant one time. And this waiter, who we didn't know from Adam, is like the thing she's most excited about in life. And I realize, you know, in my daily life, we can tend to overlook people, or, you know, look past the person in line at the grocery store with you, or the checker, and Ella Claire doesn't. She doesn't miss that person, you know, which I think, what a great lesson, you know, for the rest of us. But in perspective, I think is one thing that if I had to think, well, what have we gleaned from our experiences as special needs family? I think perspective might be it. And I think, you know, for Special Olympics, for volunteers to be a part of that, I think one of the things, and I'm just guessing, but I can imagine one of the things it might do for those volunteers is help change their perspective a little bit.
Yes.
Has that happened
definitely.
when people join you?
Yes, definitely. So we have a volunteer who comes from the National Charity League. She's our local rep, and she was out at our school games that we had out at Gersh Park. This was, you know, last year. And she said, you know, how do I get more individuals involved from our organization? She said, you know, when I came on board to be the rep, she says, you know, she goes, I have to be honest with you. And she says, you know, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. You know, I've never necessarily been around individuals with intellectual disabilities. And she goes, all I knew that my daughter wanted to volunteer, so we were coming together. And she said, so, you know, she goes, I was a little hesitant because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, how do I act? How do I, you know, what if it's an uncomfortable situation? What do I do with that? And she said, you know, we came out, and she said, I couldn't believe what was going on, and the excitement with all the volunteers and the athletes. And she said, all of a sudden, all those apprehensions that I had just like dissolved. Right. And she said, I wish I could express this to many more of our members, of just come out and see what's going on. Yeah. And it was interesting when she said that. I said, you know, I've been saying that all along. why don't we get certain, individuals from different organizations to come out and help us? I think if you come out and see, even if it's just come by and watch and see what's going on, and you'll realize there's nothing to be apprehensive about. When you realize it, our athletes are they're awesome. They're awesome individuals. And a lot of times, and even this volunteer, she says, oh, I didn't know so-and-so, they work at, the Vons in Montecito, or this other one works at this place that I go to. And I said, yes, at CVS, at Vons, a lot of our athletes hold down, full-time or part-time jobs.
Yeah.
And when I came on board, I realized a lot of the folks that the Vons that I went to, or a CVS or a different location, like another store, I was like, oh, I know that face. Oh, they're one of our athletes. Oh, I know this person. So it's really interesting how I put all of that together, that these folks that I've been seeing for years are part of Special Olympics.
Yeah.
But I had no clue. I didn't know it. Yeah.
And so what's the entry point for somebody who's watching right now, wants to volunteer, or they just want to check it out? What's the entry point? Where do they show up? Where do they go?
So they could always contact us at our office. We have, they could call me, on the phone. We can mail out information in regards to upcoming events. We usually have flyers or a flyer that has upcoming events. They could just show up at the event and just, check it out. Sometimes it's just come by for, 20 minutes, half an hour, see what's going on. And we've had people that said, oh, I'm only coming for a 2-hour shift. They sign up for a 2-hour shift, and then they stay the whole day.
Right.
They stay the whole day. And what was interesting is there is a Rams player, Johnny Hecker.
Yes.
I was at our Special Olympics breakfast about a year ago, and he was speaking at our breakfast. He's been a longtime Special Olympics supporter. And he says, I don't have any relatives that have special needs. He said how he got involved was his dad worked with a special needs population. And both him and a friend had to do their volunteer, while they were in school, when they were younger. They had to do their hours. And so his dad said, well, I'm going to sign you up. There's, Special Olympics is doing an event, and I'll drop you off. And he's like, 8 hours? Wow, what are we going to do in 8 hours? So he's telling a story about this. Dad drops him off early in the morning. They're schlepping water. They're doing this, that, whatever it was that they were assigned. And he said the time just went by so quickly. And ever since then, every competition that they could go to, him and his buddy volunteered at every competition that they were able to go to throughout school. Wow. And so that's why he has such a big passion for Special Olympics. We took some athletes down with Donna Reeves. She took some athletes down to LA with kind of like a demo with Johnny Hecker there at, on the field.
He kicked?
Just a combination of things. And, the stories that I heard, coming back from the athletes and from Donna was, wow, he is such a genuine person. It wasn't a photo op. It was not just, he was there playing with the athletes, the high fives, very excited. And you could just see, because, some of the pictures that were brought back were just like, you could tell this was something that was genuine. And it was, again, he had his aha moment back when he was in high school, when he did that first day of volunteering.
It's really hard to not fall in love with these kids. I mean, they're special.
Yes.
What is your website?
Our website is sosc.org/Santa Barbara.
sosc.org/Santa Barbara.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where people can go to get information.
That's where they could go.
Now, in terms of your events, in terms of like fundraising, and do you have like an annual event? Do you have? Tell us about that.
So we have 2 annual events. Actually, our gala dinner's coming up on October 19th. It's our 5th annual Fired Up for Special Olympics. Our local city and county firefighters host that event for us. It's a Santa Maria style barbecue. We do it at the Santa Barbara Carriage Museum. All the proceeds go to our Special Olympics program here in Santa Barbara. And so that's our largest fundraiser that we do. We do tip of cops at various restaurants throughout the year. And the other fundraiser that we do is our Polar Plunge in April that we do down at Ledbetter Beach. We have a lot of our firefighters, our law enforcement officers, the DA, probation, all different law enforcement agencies participate in that. A lot of people say Polar Plunge, Santa Barbara. Well, April, our water's really cold in April.
Say,
with the currents, it's really cold. So, we have a nice little breakfast. Firefighters cook up the breakfast, people plunge, and it's all part of raising money for Special Olympics. And
so Polar Plunge, and then this October event that you have every year.
Our largest fundraising events, and we do a lot of other fundraising events in between.
And so you partner, it sounds like law enforcement and fire department have a good partnership with you all.
Yes, we have really great partnerships with both. And, I asked our Polar Plunge is what we consider our law enforcement torch run fundraising event. But when that was a no-brainer that law enforcement were going to come on board on that event when we started it, again, 5 years ago too. But when I asked the firefighters, I said, hey, I need someone to cook breakfast. We got that down. They bring out their big, humongous grill that they hook up to the truck, and they pump out the breakfast, and everyone has breakfast, kind of talking in the morning, and then lo and behold, we do the plunge. It only takes like half an hour for the plunge to be, to actually take place. But part of it is just coming out, mingling with everyone, having breakfast, and then plunging for a cause, and that's for our athletes.
That's great. And so, and if people wanted to give, they can give through your website, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And okay, can I say one thing about your husband?
Sure.
Most of you may know that Gina is married to our congressman, and so I just wanted to say thank you for your public service and his public service. I know you sacrifice probably just as much as he does, and because I know that from what I've heard, it's not necessarily always the easiest thing to be involved in. But I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the community for your service and his service, and we're thankful for both of you.
Oh, thank you, Dean.
Yeah, and we're thankful for you and Special Olympics, and I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate
Right.
our conversation.
Yep, thank you, Gina Carbajal, and thankful you joined us today on Good Life, and we'll see you next time.